According to the United Nations, Africa has now more than 1,200,000,000 inhabitants, three-quarters of whom are under 35 years of age. A very young population that could double by 2050. This would constitute a heavy burden in terms of education, health, and employment in this region of the world, which continues to display the worst indicators of social development despite the current prevalence of high economic growth rates. But this young and expanding population could be an asset for the development of the continent. Indeed, Africa has a window of opportunity of 50 years to transform this demographic weight into a factor of social and economic change through targeted investments to capture the demographic dividend.
Le dividende démographique, donc, c'est ce moment de la vie d'une population où
the demographic dividend is that moment in the life of a population where the production mass is higher than the consumer mass. This means that people who produce are more than those who consume. So we have the opportunity to save. We have the opportunity to consume better. We have the opportunity to improve these conditions. But it turns out that if we don't do anything for the productive population to have the skills and actually produce in order to create an added value, which is very important because it is this added value that makes wealth. If we do not act, we will have serious problems. In Asian countries, a young person remains inactive for up to 24 years of age. From 24 years, he begins to add his share of wealth to the national wealth. In a country like Senegal, we are around 30 years, sometimes 35 years. In rural areas, it is even worse. And it is in our best interest that our young people have the resources, the essential elements, the skills, and the necessary qualifications to produce the wealth we need to move the country forward.
Pour pouvoir produire cette richesse dont nous avons besoin pour que le pays continue.
As part of its support to the country in which it operates, the UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, has worked hard to bring young people forward during 2016. Throughout the year, advocacy, building partnerships, and strengthening political dialogue were carried out to prepare countries for increased investment in human capital, as was the case last February in Accra, Ghana, at the 7th African Conference on the Rights of Sexual and Reproductive Health. The starting point of a continental campaign is to set 18 as the minimum age for marriage. A priority for young girls to be free to decide when and with whom to marry, plan their pregnancy, and benefit from safety to reconcile work and family life.
The ICPD agenda, developed over 2 decades ago in Cairo, continues to guide our work at UNFPA. It reinforces the importance of investing in people, particularly women and girls, investing in their health, particularly their sexual and reproductive health, in their capacities and capabilities, and in expanding their opportunities to realize their full potential and to achieve sustainable development. There is no better investment in the world than the health of our people. And the demographic dividend speaks to that. Now, for otherwise healthy young people, the greatest need is to offer them sexual and reproductive health care and preventive services needed to avoid unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, or if pregnant, the terrifying spectacle of an illegal abortion or delivering their babies without medical care.
If you look at Agenda 2030, the issue of the demographic dividend is at its very heart. Look at Agenda 2063. The issue of demographic dividend occupies a key position. So we are talking a little bit about the interconnection between policy documents. Here, we are at the global level. In Africa, we are right in Agenda 2063. At a more detailed level, we get in the practical field, and the heads of state are saying, listen, we do not want to limit ourselves to 2030. We say that it is our priority in Africa, but in our program of 2017, we want to push the agenda as far as we can. The process is well underway, and I think that this is a recognition by the heads of state that the future of Africa rests in the demographic dividend.
The conference, chaired by John Dramani Mahama, the president of Ghana, attended by several First African ladies, marked the beginning of an hemispheric dynamic centered on significant investment in favor of young people, and especially girls, in order to get them to participate in the economic development of their country. A renewed commitment in September in New York during a high-level meeting on the empowerment of women and the demographic dividend, presided over by President of Burkina Faso, Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré, on the sidelines of the 71st Ordinary Session of the Assembly General of the United Nations. The meeting, which was jointly organized by the UNFPA and the World Bank, aimed to strengthen the commitment of development partners to reduce fertility and ensure the creation of decent and sustainable jobs, in particular by scaling up the continent, such as SWID, the Sahel Women's Empowerment and Demographic Dividend.
I'm responsible for bringing together all heads of states of the continent and in the international forums the call of the African youth, so that everything is set to give them space and favorable environment for its full development and its strong involvement in Africa's construction process. This is to capture the demographic dividend as a central axis of the completion of the development and the achievement of the ODDs from today to year 2030. To do so, in addition to the states, I do not doubt for a moment that our partners, the UNFPA, the World Bank, and all the United Nations will have a steady gaze on the issue of youth and women. Better yet, I hope they watch over the development of projects and youth empowerment program, hence the imperious necessity to give life to the African Youth Charter by inviting countries that have not yet signed or ratified to do so very quickly and prepare its implementation.
Le programme au Niger se porte très bien. Nous avons adopté des projets dans le cadre de la composante numéro 1, qui est la composante d'autonomisation.
The program in Niger is doing very well. We have adopted the projects under the component number 1, which is the women's empowerment component. This is the ELIMI project that ensures that young girls from 14 to 16 years of age are taken care of. Those who no longer go to school, they learn a trade and are given a kit to be independent. So the age of marriage is delayed a little bit. There is a project that allows women to accept to give birth in health facilities safely and practice family planning. We also have a project for procurement in drugs, for family planning and for nutrition that is ongoing and is doing well. We have, especially for the component number 3, we have ensured that all social strata, therefore politics, religious, traditional leaders, you, the journalists, can monopolize this concept of demographic dividend to better understand it and talk about it.
S'accaparer de ce concept de dividende démographique pour pouvoir mieux le comprendre et aussi en parler.
It is in Conakry, Guinea, where it has helped put an end to practices such as forced marriages, child labor, female genital mutilation, and all other harms to the health and rights of girls, that the UNFPA continues its plea. In its 2016 report on the state of the world's population entitled 10 Years, How Our Future Depends on a Girl at this Decisive Age, the UNFPA challenges African and global decision makers about practices that harm girls aged 10, preventing them from fully realizing their potential as adults and contributing to the progress of their communities and nations in the Sustainable Development Agenda by 2030.
Nous pensons donc que ce rapport 2016 sur l'état de la population mondiale.
We believe that this 2016 report on the state of the world population will remain the main witness, the main referral document, which will enable us to measure the progress in all levels on issues of population and development regarding the Millennium Development.
En ce qui concerne les objectifs de développement du millénaire. Donc c'est vraiment un repère, ce qu'on appelle en anglais un baseline.
This is really a landmark, a baseline, and everything we will accomplish, we must see the results in every girl who is 10 years old today. This is the symbolic aspect. Second aspect is that we are doing it on the eve of the two African Union summits, and it talks a little bit about the demographic dividend. And as we keep saying when we talk about investing in youth, the most strategic investment is in girls and youngsters. And as I often say, for our bet regarding the 2030 rendezvous, we will win it if we start the work today in favor of the girls who celebrate their 10 years.
Et en faveur de la jeune fille qui aujourd'hui célèbre ses 10 ans.
The girls of today are the women of tomorrow. The girls of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And today's youth are tomorrow's leaders. If we focus on our youth, this means that in the medium term we will have well-trained managers, knowledgeable and well-initiated. So we think this is a very good strategy for African countries in general, especially for our country, Guinea, be part of the 2030 rendezvous. One of the UNFPA's major innovations in 2016 is undoubtedly the mobile clinic of family planning launched in the year. 8 health zones in this country have benefited 3 boats worth 18 million each, accompanied by a batch of equipment and equipment consisting of medical consumables, contraceptives, among others. These investments, carried out with several public and private partners, are helping Benin contain the still growing demographic dynamics, thus enabling the country to benefit fully from the benefits of the demographic dividend. In our area, we can only move around by small bark. The patient should have necessary means to afford that trip to the centers where services are available. The patient should use the bark. Sometimes it is difficult. They want to, but don't have enough money to take the bark for transportation, and we get stuck. Now that the bark is coming towards us, the family planning bark mobile, which brings us care and family planning services in our room, within the population, we can only applaud for that approach. This can only help us reach out easily the population.
Le Bénin a des indicateurs en la matière qui ne sont pas très reluisants.
Benin has some monitoring indicators that are not very attractive. I can name a few of them. We are in a country of more than 10 million inhabitants, but the maternal mortality can go from 335 deaths for 100,000 child alive. This is an indicator.
Un deuxième indicateur, la contribution des adolescentes à la fertilité est relativement élevée.
Second indicator is the adolescent contribution on fertility, which is relatively high. That contribution is about 20%. It means that in a country like ours, a young girl aged 18 has been a mother at least one time in 32% of the cases, or has children at that age. And this happens in the rural area. This is not the best indicator. And we can add that in Benin, the birth control prevalence or the modern methods, regardless of the one we wish to use, does not exceed 15%.
Ne vaut pas 15%.
At the end of 2016, as part of the preparation of the African Union Roadmap for 2017, the UNFPA and the Forum of African Parliamentarians worked on the development and implementation of national legislation, policies and programs, rights and access to essential services. Parliamentarians should be guarantors of budgetary policies in this regard and of the executives of their respective countries. The conclusions of their work will also serve as a roadmap for the implementation of the policies set out in 2030. The conclusions of their work will also serve as a roadmap for the implementation of the policies set out in the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development and the 2063 Agenda of the African Union.